Today on Sounds Gouda, we give our breakout players for this year. Who will have the biggest impact? Stay tuned and find out.
Yeah, I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey. Yeah. Ain't no errors, baby, it's a new era. I wake up early feeling rich like I'm cash.
Welcome in, Sounds Gouda, episode 10. Thank you to everyone coming back and listening to us. I am Rob Ralph. Beside me is my best friend and co-host, Jordan Olson. Thank you so much for coming back and listening to us. Every Thursday we do have new episodes come out on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. So for today's episode, we're going to talk some breakout players. What do you think, Jordan?
Yeah, I'm really excited for this. Obviously, our fans know we're getting to that point of the season where we don't have practice happening, we don't have games happening, and we're kind of projecting. So I thought it would be fun to talk a little bit about who could be those players that will make a huge impact for us. So for today's discussion, we need to define for you a little bit what a breakout player is, or at least what kind of breakout that we're talking about. So we're largely focused on our second and third year players coming into their second and third seasons. Obviously, we could discuss others like Rashawn Gary, who might have a breakout season in a different way. All of a sudden, if Rashawn Gary hits that, 13, 14 sack mark, obviously probably the biggest breakout that we can be talking about, probably being all pro. But we're really doing a little bit more projection in this episode. What are some other things that would define a breakout? Obviously, big jumps in statistics from last season, any kind of seasonal awards, Pro Bowl nods. Clearly if somebody was an offense or defensive player of the year, they would be the clear breakout. Who makes high impact plays, and not only who makes them, but what the frequency of those plays are. And then, looking back when the season is over, throw Jordan Love out of the mix because he'll probably likely be team MVP. But if we're looking at what that short list of players is for team MVP beyond Jordan Love, who are those guys going to be? So, Rob, who do you think is one of the potential breakouts for this coming season?
Yeah, so a popular guy that has come through on the internet, and I really do think he has been the talk of the camp so far. He's put on a little bit of weight and some muscle, pretty aggressive in his play style too, and I think some other pods have talked about this as well, but pretty excited for his year too, and that's Carrington Valentine. Just some of his stats from this last year, games played 17, had 44 total tackles, 33 solo, 11 assisted, 0 sacks. He had 9 passes deflected, 0 forced fumbles, and 1 fumble recovery. I do think that this is going to be a year where he's really going to take the next step in Jeff Hafley's system, specifically Jeff Hafley being a defensive backs coach. I think he's really going to take off, and I think that's going to be for a multitude of different reasons. He played a lot last year, but I think some increased snap count is going to be in store for his second year. He's going to have some more adaptation, to the NFL speed. I think you're going to be able to have a versatile player, that's going to be able to do a lot of different things. I think he does have natural ball skills. He's also really good at jamming up the line and being able to play those wide receivers like that. I think he'll continue to have really good special teams impact as well. We all know that alludes to good play on the field if you're really doing good in special teams. And then obviously a really good supportive secondary unit to be able to coincide with that too. So, Jordan, what do you think on my Carrington Valentine pick?
Well, I think when you look at these guys, you kind of have to look through their deficiencies, whether that's from their college career or, kind of what we saw last year. I think what you said about his ball skills is somewhat correct, right? We've got a lot of pass breakups. However, he had 0 interceptions on last season. He didn't have a lot of interceptions in college. So clearly, if he could walk away with maybe 2 or 3 picks this year, that would be a huge jump. I don't really know that that's in his game. I'd imagine that they're going to be working on it. But I think really, I mean, him focusing on being sticky in coverage, using his physicality and his body size and Jeff Hafley's new scheme. I think just simply if he became the starter opposite of Jair, and obviously last year at the end of the season he kind of was by default. We had so many guys injured, but it's going to be a huge battle between him and Stokes coming into the season. If Stokes wins that job, then maybe this projection looks a little bit different. But injuries, attrition, things like that will happen. I don't know. For you, Rob, when you look at Carrington, because I like Carrington, I like his college pedigree. I thought that he probably could have been like a 4th-round pick. We got him in the 7th. What do you think that he needs to do this season to be that breakout player besides volume of playing time?
Interceptions. I mean, continuing to make really good tackles, obviously, at the point of contact. And I think interceptions are the big one. Like you said, not too much in his repertoire, from college and then into his first year. Obviously, he didn't have 0. He had 0 last year. But man, if he can get 2, 3, 4, possibly interceptions or just some balls that come his way that he can pick up, maybe a pass gets deflected, whatever it is, and he picks it up in the middle of the field. I think that would be huge for the Packers, and some of those situational plays that could mean a game or two for the Packers, swings in their favor too. So that'd be the one thing that I'm like, man, yeah, absolutely, we need to get a couple of those this year, and I'm expecting that. I'm not expecting 6, 7, 8, whatever, but I'll go with 3. I'll go with 3 this year. That's my take for him.
Yeah, that would be a great number, and something that the Packers secondary has sorely been missing the last few seasons is takeaway plays from that unit, and they've clearly made some additions through free agency and the draft to try to improve that. So jump into one of my guys quick here. So this is a little less sexy pick. It's also a guy that is not necessarily a secret in terms of somebody that we're hoping has a big season, but Zach Tom. I think that behind the progress of Jordan Love, I think that Zach Tom is the most critical player to having a successful, high-powered offense this season. Last year, started all 17 games as a second-year player. He'll be entering his 3rd year in the NFL. Don't have a ton of statistics on him, like maybe if we look advanced into PFF, which he did have a solid PFF grade last year, 77.8. But it's not like, hey, we're looking at him having 14 pancakes and, next year he's going to have 28 pancakes. And, we're recording this in the morning. Maybe I'm a little hungry and I could use a little breakfast myself, throwing a little bacon and some crispy hash browns, but
he's going to get his
aside,
pancakes, Jordan.
He's going to get his pancakes. And I don't even know if he had 14 pancakes last year as hypothetical, so please don't call me on that. What I do know, though, looking at some other statistics from all pros, right? So Penei Sewell and Lane Johnson, those both NFC players. The Penei Sewell all pro first team. He allowed 7 penalties and 1 sack last year. Lane Johnson was second team all pro, 4 penalties and 3 sacks allowed. So how does Zach Tom stack up? Zach Tom had 3 penalties and 2 sacks allowed last season. So he's already statistically in probably the biggest 2 metrics they look at for linemen right there with those frontline guys. We know that guys typically find themselves in the Pro Bowl kind of a year after they've really earned it on the field because they have that notoriety. But I think he's going to be a all-pro caliber of right tackle, certainly somebody who should make a Pro Bowl or 2 and shore up that position for us in the future. There's a lot of conversation about his versatility moving inside. This is just my opinion. I think he's a really good right tackle. I think they're going to explore other options on the inside, and I think Zach Tom ends up playing that position as a Packer for a while. things could change that. Certainly injuries. But I don't know, Rob, what do you think about Zach Tom and his potential for this season? And is there something you need to see from him to be a breakout this year?
Don't give up sacks to Jordan Love. I mean, pretty, just simpling it, dumbing it down. But yeah, the consistency, right? I think he has shown that he can be consistent, and he's shown that, he can play throughout an NFL season without getting injured too much, right? Like, I think the best type of play is obviously not giving up sacks, but also being healthy and being available for your line. That way you're not having to mix and match, depending on the different types of matchups. I would agree as well, too. I do think he is a right tackle. Again, like with injuries, with anything else that occurs within the NFL season, you could see him, I think, moving basically anywhere on the line. I think he can play literally anywhere, maybe even center too, right? So, and I think he has played center. So he's the most versatile chess piece, or one of them, for the Packers. I think his best spot is the right tackle. Obviously, they've been playing him there. I think if he can, just continue to keep up with his play, his conditioning, mastery of the offense, and different stuff as far as this year goes. Maybe there's a little bit more of Jordan Love calling different plays at the line, right? Like we've seen a little bit in OTAs and mini camps, and him getting that communication, getting that protection call, and then be able to execute on it too. So I think it's just a stellar pick for you, and for a quote unquote breakout or pancake guy for this next year.
Gonna have a whole stack of pancakes.
Yeah, for sure. So another one of mine, another favorite here on X2 as well. But Karl Brooks. I just think that the versatility, again, that what you can do with him, showed that he played all the games last year, 17 games played, 28 total tackles, 12 solos, 16 assisted, 4 sacks, 4 passes deflected, 1 forced fumble, and two fumble recoveries. So I think that's going to be super important for him. I think you can almost line him up basically anywhere. He's a tweener. You can line him up on the inside. He did play a lot on the inside. You can line him up on the outside. He was showing that he could win quite a bit on the inside. And had some really good games. I'm thinking of the one against the Panthers. Had a really good couple of plays. But so his understanding and an improved the playbook and the schemes going into year 2, we all know that that's a thing. Continuing to be a master of what you need to do, where you need to line up your gaps that you need to protect. And it sounds like this year too, they're just going to kind of give him the reins, like play a lot, more freely, and just go out there and make a play. I think also as well, and he might have alluded to this on some other type of podcasts and stuff that he's been on, but just his physical development and conditioning. We all know that's obviously a major thing in the NFL, and the more conditioned you are, the more physical development that you have. You're going to be able to stay on the field for multiple different downs and plays, and that'll lead to a lot of really good things. I already alluded to it as well, but versatility in the defensive line, where he's going to be able to get to go and line up. And I think Hafley's going to have a ton of really good things that he's going to be able to do with him. And just being able to be on the same page too with the coaching and the new defensive coaches this year, and any sort of mentorships and different things that he can get from those coaches, and be able to up his play. But what do you think as far as Karl Brooks goes, Jordan?
I love Karl Brooks. I really do. We haven't been doing this long enough where you can follow us and know how high I was on going into the draft that he was selected. He was another guy that I thought could have gone as high as the 3rd or 4th round. I watch a lot of MAC football, right? I've seen Karl Brooks play in person, and I just am really a fan of his game. His knock coming into the league is that he's got a weird body type. He's kind of a tweener between tackle and end.
I think that's worked out for us.
He's just a football player, and that's really cool. I think if you know about how Karl Brooks, we have different types of defensive linemen and pass rushers, right? Like LVN, strength, bull rusher. Karl Brooks is a technician. So the fact that he is a technician, and when you try to win that way, whether it's arm techniques, swim moves, things like that, um, those are things that are going to take experience to catch up at the NFL level, right? Because you're used to playing against college level competition. And when it's not your pure strength and speed that's winning for you, the craft you put into your technique is going to help. So he's going to be going into year 3. We saw a big jump for him last year. And I expect going into year 3 that he's going to, it's hard to say. I'm not going to use master your craft, right? But maybe if he, let's speak college speak for say, right? If he was kind of at like a 301, he's kind of entering that, junior or senior year of your undergrad. You've got the lay of the land. You understand campus. You've got the foundation. And now it's time to really shine. So, love the pick, Rob. I'm not going to get too heavy into statistics. There's going to be a lot of guys there. But if you see him, get into the backfield, add another sack or two, his impact on defense is going to just show up on tape.
Yeah, I can't wait for it. Just the whole defensive scheme in general. I've been harping on this ever since we started this podcast, but super excited for what he can bring in the rest of the defensive line too. So.
Mm-hmm. All right. So breakout candidate number 4. And this one, I think, is a little less straightforward. Actually, there's a bunch of guys we could talk about, right? I mean, Rasheed Walker, Luke Musgrave, any of the Packers wide receivers, which we've already done a episode on the Packers wide receivers, which are all going into year 2 and 3. They'd all qualify, and it could be any one of those guys. LVN would be another obvious pick out there on the X machine. I projected that he doubles his sack total this year to go from 4 sacks to 8. And I think his technique, as he improves that with his physicality, is gonna help. So guy I wanted to talk about, though, was Tucker Kraft. There's been articles recently on the internet about how Luke Musgrave is going to break out this year. And obviously that's an easy projection because hopefully he's healthy. And if we see him on the field, we see his deep threat potential. I like Tucker Kraft for a couple of reasons, and likely just to kind of, break down this conversation a little bit or kind of set the tone, is that it's probably a situation where it's like kind of a 1A, 1B. I'm not indicating that Tucker Kraft is going to take the Lions' shares of snap here over Luke Musgrave. It's going to be situational. And there's going to be a lot of times, and we've talked about this, that they're going to be on the field at the same time in 12 personnel and be used in a variety of ways. I like Tucker Kraft more than Luke Musgrave as kind of that 1A. Because of his ability to be a more overall well-rounded player. I think both in the passing and blocking game, he's an improved blocker over Luke Musgrave. And I think going into year 2, understanding the system, understanding the playbook, he's going to know where to be. He's going to seal off tackles. The other thing that I think he really brings over Luke Musgrave, at least over what we saw on the field last year, is that Luke Musgrave has a lot of improvement in his route tree. There were times when Luke Musgrave was open down the field and him and Jordan Love did not connect. Could be a little bit on Jordan Love for not getting the ball to him. I kind of tend to think that he might have been a few yards off his route of where Jordan Love thought he was going to be. So that's something that Musgrave's gonna look at. But I love Tucker Kraft's mentality. He's jumping over players, hurdling them on the sideline. He reminds me of that like old school kind of player, a William Henderson type. Obviously, William Henderson a fullback, but in that mold. So he had 8 starts last year, 31 receptions, 355 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Again, they're going to share that. So probably not big in the stat category. I could see him having like 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. But I think his impact shows up in a lot of other ways. And just when you watch the tape, you're going to like to see Tucker Kraft out there. I don't know. What do you think, Rob? Do you like Luke Musgrave better than Kraft, or where are you at in this conversation?
I think it all just depends. As far as like getting down and doing the dirty work, I love Tucker Kraft in the run game. And obviously they're like you said too in the 12 personnel, they're going to have packages. They're going to have both of them on the field, which gives you a lot of different options and play calling abilities. But you know, multiple times, able to help on a really good bookend. With certain players that are really good, like Micah Parsons, right, or something like that, being able to chip and block and then boom, get out on some of his under routes. How many times did we see that, especially in that Cowboys game too? Made how many? I don't have the stats, but how many first downs did he have on a 3rd and 4, or 3rd and 5, or whatever it is, to be able to help the Packers move the chains. So just extremely versatile that way. He does look a lot more polished in his route concepts. I think obviously Musgrave's got a little bit more speed and can take the top off the defense as far as like a tight end goes, and is able to spread that in the middle of the field, which is really crucial. And that opens up other playmaking abilities for some of these other tight ends and wide receivers and stuff. But love what he's able to do in the running game. And I think the running game obviously just opens up the passing game. His blocking abilities, his willingness to get in there and to do the dirty work. And then he's a Wisconsin man, right? Like you see him out there in X and doing his fishing trips and drinking his bush lattes and stuff too. So it's hard not to root for this kid.
Yeah, and and just to define that for our listeners, right? Because he's not from Wisconsin, we know he's South Dakota born and raised, but he's like Wisconsin mentality, right?
Yes, very much so.
And the other thing about him, it gets overlooked because of how fast and athletic that Luke Musgrave is. But, he's a 95th percentile athlete. He's still one of the best testers to come out of the combine in a long time. And last year's tight end class was extremely, last year being, 2023 was extremely athletic. And I'm just excited for both. But we'll see what happens. So we had an interesting discussion coming into this. We set our parameters about 2nd and 3rd year players, but Rob was really banging on the drum to have a conversation about AJ Dillon. And Rob, go ahead. Let's talk about AJ Dillon for a minute. What do you think he's going to do this year?
Yeah. So we had a little bit of talk and different things and some banter back and forth about who we want to talk about, and then Rob brings up AJ Dillon. I don't have
Rob,
any.
He does not qualify for this conversation.
And I'm like, I do not care. Yeah. So I mean, okay, maybe it's just the hype on X and him not going on vacation and running the stairs at Lambeau. Him, not getting a really good contract. And I think he's playing on the vet minimum. I could be wrong on that. I don't know. I think he took a little bit of a discount to come back with the Packers, and to show that he can do it this year. Just to me, and my question for you, Jordan, is okay. I think we all agree that Josh Jacobs is going to be the lead back, but we drafted Marshawn Lloyd this year as well too, who brings a completely different skill set as well. But do you think like it's a 1A, for Josh Jacobs, and then it's a 2A and 2B as far as like AJ Dillon and then Marshawn Lloyd, and then as the season progresses, right? Like a little bit. I know we were talking about it from before, but like what happened with Jahmyr Gibbs and the Detroit Lions started to take off really that second half of the year. Or do you think it's just like, okay, it's situational. We're building out these plays. This is who's going to be on the field. And obviously it depends on how Marshawn Lloyd does in pass protection and some of those kind of situational plays. But how do you think that shapes out?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think it's going to be situational. We know Matt LaFleur as a play caller likes to utilize all of his chess piece and game pieces in different ways. I do think that his production is a little bit more insulated at the beginning of the season. AJ Dillon is a vet. He knows the playbook. running back, from what I hear, I haven't played in the NFL, so I can't tell you from first-person experience, but is one of the easier positions to adjust to, especially when you get put in for some running or passing plays. It's the blocking and some of those other schemes that are the harder pieces to adjust to. So I expect the first month, 6 weeks of the season, that you probably see A.J. Dillon in some of those passing situations where we really need a key block, or obviously his body type, it's ideal, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, that he's the kind of guy that you're putting in there. But, now we got a Josh Jacobs too. And A.J. Dillon, this was the criticism, right? For as big a dude as he is, he wasn't converting those 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 yardages. And I mean, that's what do we have a guy built like that for if we're not doing that? So I think it's a little situational. I think you see Lloyd get introduced and comfortable as we go more throughout the year. I don't know, like, Rob, what do you think? I mean, obviously you think he's going to have a big season. I agree with you that he's going to bounce back. He wants to get paid. He is playing on a rare contract, which has kind of a hometown discount involved. It is nearly the veteran minimum.
Yeah.
He's entering his 5th season. He clearly wants to be an NFL player and go and get a contract that's going to put him in the league for another 2, 3, 4 seasons. Will that be with the Packers? Probably not, which kind of makes me sad. I love A.J. Dillon, his mentality. He loves Door County. You see him up there embracing that. And he seems like a really good dude. And I know he's tight with Jordan Love, from what I see on the internet and whatnot. But I don't know why are you adamant that this is going to be a big year for Dillon?
I just think it's the bounce back concept, right? I think it was just not being able to produce as much as you thought you were going to produce. I think you're taking a little bit of a hometown discount. He seems obviously bought in, and not that he wasn't bought in from before, but running the stairs instead of going on vacation. I just think that, like, for you, and right, like, if there's a chance for a promotion and you missed out on that job, right? Like, you didn't get that job, that puts something in a man, or even a woman, right? Too. Like, it just does something to you, and you get determined. You have that perseverance, you have that tenacity, you have that work ethic. And it's not like he needs to go out and be absolutely incredible. He just needs to convert on those certain situational type of downs, your 3rd and 1s, your 4th and 1s. Give the big man the rock in these cold weather, snowy games, and just let the man produce, right? We saw one glimpse of that, I believe. There might be others, but the one I can remember for you, and I'm sure you remember too, the Titans game. Exactly what you'd want out of him, and I think that was probably his best game as a Packers player. But just cold weather, taking the rock, boom, taking some beating, and then get some yards after contact. I'm not asking you to get, 10, 15 yards after contact. I'm just asking you to convert those 3rd and 1s, those 3rd and 2s, be a good veteran person for those, for Marshawn Lloyd and for those other players on offense, and convert on these good situational opportunities.
Yeah, throw like the statistics out. I don't think he's going to have like 1,000-yard season or whatever. But for me, that comeback that would earn him that nice contract with whatever team is next would be his ability to show exactly what you said, Rob, is that my role in the NFL is to convert on short yardage, and I'm going to prove that I can do that. And if he does that for the Packers this year, he's going to have some touchdowns, he's going to have some first downs, and he's going to have a big impact. So,
and then hold on too, before we head off this, can you imagine Josh Jacobs, A.J. Dillon, and Marshawn Lloyd as a 3-headed spear in that backfield, and for defenses to have to not only just have to concentrate on your wide receivers, your tight ends, right? But then, like, that 3-headed spear, I know you can't put everybody on the field at once, but it just gives you so many different options. And if he can be somewhat sort of competent, raise his level up a notch or two, that makes your offense just unbelievably hard to stop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's depth, right? There is going to be attrition and injury in the NFL season. It happens to every team. And the fact that at multiple positions, we have guys that can play, and Matt LaFleur can call on is pretty big. So one other thing in our pregame show, Rob's like, you know who I really want to talk about too? Anders Carlson. And I'm like, Rob, you want to talk about a kicker as a breakout of the year candidate? I mean, come on, we're talking about kickers here. Tell me what your thoughts about Anders Carlson.
All right. And I don't think anybody here is going to disagree with this, but like, yeah, kickers aren't the sexy position to talk about. But when you're down 24-21 and you lose to the San Francisco 49ers and you had a chance to make a field goal, maybe we're having a different discussion this year, Mm-hmm. So if he can up his field goal percentages, if he can make those clutch kicks, I don't care if that's okay for him, right? And the breakout player for him for going into year 2. But specifically, I don't care who it is. Greg Joseph, Anders Carlson, make your kicks. And make your kicks in those clutch situations. I know this isn't anything that's like, oh my God, this is just amazing analysis. I just want competence. And I'm not saying he wasn't competent. I'm just saying in those clutch situations, i.e. the San Francisco 49ers in the playoffs, make all your kicks. That's it.
Yeah, I'm not going to stress like missing 45 plus yarders. Every NFL player kicker is going to miss a couple of those a season, right? So like, let's not even pretend that, he's got to go out and make 90% of his kicks, but he's got to be better with extra points. There were probably at least 2 games that the outcome was changed by one or more multiple missed extra points. It changes your, what you're coming out and doing the next time you score. Are we have to go for 2 points now? How conservative we are in the offense? Did we put this game away? So I'm not going for breakout, but I agree. I'm asking for confidence, and I think hopefully we can achieve confidence. And just do your job, Carlson. Make those extra points for us. If you miss a 250, a couple 50-yarders, even like you miss a 55-yarder to win a game, we can live with that, right?
I will put out a post every single time he misses a kick and he's not 110%. Just know that. Totally fair, right? Not at all.
Yeah. There's more jargon, right? 110%. And, I'm glad you didn't say it before, but AJ Dillon, I'm glad you didn't use chip on his shoulder. So the chip on the shoulder, the 110%, those are all bugaboos of mine. I can't say that I've never said them right, but there's the popular things. You listen to these NFL interviews and it's like, those are the buzzwords, right? So I applaud you for not using chip on the shoulder, Rob.
Well, if I'm not using dog or chip on the shoulder, I got to use something else that pisses you off, Jordan.
So closing notes. We did a little quick kicker swap. James Turner comes in. I think he was with the Lions. He was the University of Michigan kicker last year. We released Jack Podledzny. We're just talking about kickers. I don't know that he's going to even really make an impact, or he'll be on the roster after, the first cut down. It probably is Anders Carlson's job. Greg Joseph could really make a push if the training camp is tough for Carlson. Probably stash Carlson on the practice squad or something, but I don't know. I don't read too much into this James Turner, Jack Podledzny swap. Jordan Morgan locks in his rookie deal. It's kind of just news. People make a bigger deal out of it than I like to. I think that I'm never really personally worried about rookie contracts. You get drafted by a team, you're going to sign. Sometimes these things just take a little bit longer because they're squabbling over small things like $10,000 in guaranteed money. I mean, for the most part, these players are bracketed into the kind of, years and money they're going to make. So I don't sweat that stuff too much. One other thing, Packers training schedule is out. Practice begins July 22nd. So actually from today's recording, we are a month out of practice beginning and seeing live action again. family nights on August 3rd. That's always a big highlight of the training camp season. And then we do have 2 joint practices scheduled with Denver and Baltimore. If you don't know about joint practices, before those preseason games, we get together with those teams and actually have live action against those other teams, which is super valuable. There's a lot of headlines typically during those weeks because there's often skirmishes and some fun things happen. We had a little drama last year with the Bengals and DJ Reader. It always seems to get a little frisky during those practices. So, one thing we wanted to do today before we close out, we wanted to thank our subscribers that we have out there on YouTube. We have more subscribers than this. However, not everybody's username is publicly available to us. So we'll thank the people who we can see your username. So KJB Baseball, Bears Nation podcast, interesting one. But, I love the fact that we have a competitor out there, a fan of an opposing team or producing content for an opposing team checking in on us. I like to do that frequently and get their take. That's how we can get more educated about what's going on. A guy named Cody, our friend and previous guest, Felipe Hayes, Austin Sanderson. Shout out to you, Austin. You're a friend of mine from the past. Glad to see you're following us. Aaron Holton, Craig Amadon. Is that right, Rob?
Amadon, one of those, yes.
Okay. Jonathan Ames and Becca Bolt. Becca Bolt's my cousin too, so shout out to some family being on there. But thanks for being dedicated, listening. As always, share this information with your families and friends. We do have a goal of reaching 1,000 subscribers. So if you can help us with that, that'd be great. So we'll be back, have another episode next Thursday again for you. So make sure to check that out. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And then if you're on Spotify or Apple, please make sure to follow us. As always, you can connect with us on X. My friend Rob Ralph here, Robbers79. Myself, Jordan Olson at Olson Jord. Reach out to us. We'd love to interact. So that's all, my friends. Until next time, Packers Nation, have a Gouda morning, a Gouda afternoon, and a Gouda night.
See you, Packers fans.
Been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey.